Well, I've been asked to present the situation of waste charges in Spain. And basically, I will present the overall situation, focus on pay-as-you-throw, which is still rather new in Spain, and finally, conclusions on a couple of resources that we've produced, and I hope they can be of interest for the audience. Basically, from Fundación end, we try to maintain an inventory of the situation of waste charges among Spanish municipalities. And what we do is to conduct an annual survey of 125 municipalities in order to evaluate the evolution of these waste charges. In Spain, municipal waste charges are not compulsory, although the vast majority of municipalities have them in place. And when they are in place, they can be levied by municipalities or by other local authorities on their behalf. Revenues cannot exceed the cost of the services. This is by law. So what we do, as I said, is to conduct this survey of 125 municipalities of different sizes. We capture all the provincial capitals, but then a number of municipalities also smaller. What we do in order to compare these waste charges is to define a standardized household and 6 types of standardized commercial activities. In the last report, we have increased this to 11. And then we can see what would be the tariff that each of one of these households or activities would pay. And well, first thing to comment is that when we discuss about household waste charges, still the most common situation is flat fees. This is reducing from time to time, but still is the most common. Then other municipalities also use location within the city, property value, water consumption, or other criteria. And a very limited number of municipalities, probably already below 5%, still don't have any type of waste charge. As for commercial waste charges, most common criteria to define them is the type of economic activity, which is sometimes also modulated by the area of the activity or by some type of indicator, such as number of tables, number of workers, or some other criteria. And we also find that some of these waste charges have fiscal benefits, tax credits, and the vast majority of them refer to social criteria, for example, income, or if there's any unemployed in the family, or this sort of criteria. And only around 5% of these fiscal benefits relate to environmental criteria, such as the use of recycling centers or the performance of home composting at home. When we go to a more quantitative analysis, the average waste charge in Spain for household is around 82 euros per year. But we find a lot of variety from taxes, well, actually from 0 to more than 200 euros per inhabitant, depending on the municipality. If we see the situation in relation to commercial activities, again, we see that the situation is very different according to the type of activity, which is something that we could expect. But what is interesting to see in this figure is the fact that municipalities in J5, which means larger municipalities, in general, charges are higher than for smaller municipalities. This is quite surprising, as we should expect that in large municipalities we should find economies of scale, and this in principle affect or should reduce the overall costs, and this could be reflected in charges, in the waste charges, but this is not the case, rather the contrary, and this gives some room for speculation and discussion on why this situation is like this. And as in the case of household waste charges, and even more, for the case of commercial waste charges, we find a huge variety of tariffs. For example, for bars or restaurants, ranging from just 50, 100 euros per annum to almost 5,000. So it depends a lot on the municipality completely. There's a complete lack of harmonization within the country. Coming to pay as you throw, in Spain we have basically so far around 17, maybe 18, with some of the new experiences in the Basque Country, experiences of pay as you throw. When we, I mean, I'm referring to pay as you throw applied to both household and commercial waste. So out of more than 8,000 municipalities in the country, it's a really tiny percentage. We have some other experiences of pay as you throw only focusing on commercial waste, the more significant one in Barcelona. So anyway, the experience is still very emerging, and most of the pay as you throw schemes applied so far are based on paper bag. But we also have some paper bin identification schemes, like in Surville or Vilablareix or Verdú, and these are becoming more common. I would say that now that user identification technologies have become more available, these experiences will become more common. In the metropolitan area of Barcelona, we also having some municipalities which are now locking the street containers and considering the possible application of pay as you throw in the upcoming years. In general, what we see when pay as you throw is applied is a net reduction of the overall municipal solid waste generation, with a possible slight rebound, in the next years. Part of this might be due to waste tourism, but most of it refers to adoption of best practices, and also possibly the fact that some users that were using the containers inappropriately are no longer collected within the municipal solid waste collection services. We also see an increase in separate collection in percentage, not so much in absolute values, and probably the most significant trend is a quite significant reduction of the production of refuse. Here, a couple of pictures from Surville in the Basque Country, where they created these so-called totems, where because this is an area with significant high urban density, and then below, the typical picture of a paper bag scheme with standardized bags in Argentona, in Catalonia. Some conclusions to finalize. A solid financial base for waste management system is crucial to provide sufficient resources, and this is much needed for the challenges that are coming due to European legislation and also national legislation. In Spain, municipal waste charges are very heterogeneous in their design, a lot of variety. And the average, as I said, is 20 euros per household per year in 2015, only slight increases in recent years. And overall, or in general, revenues do not cover the costs. We estimate that they are around 60%, more or less. Legislation in Spain allows for the inclusion of social and environmental criteria in the definition of the waste charges. But this is not largely applied so far, especially PAYT, as I said, is still in a very early stage. So now we expect that these systems increase in the upcoming years, and we see an increasing interest from municipalities. And finally, just a couple of resources that we developed in recent years. a guide for the implementation of pay-as-you-throw that is can be both these resources can be found in English as well. So guide, and then more recent resource. Last year we created this guide on user identification for municipal collection in high density contexts, particularly relevant for the application of pay-as-you-throw in high density areas. And that's all from my side. Thank you.